Right, in the latest developments coming in at this hour, the Israeli military has said that the soldiers were injured in 3 separate incidents in southern Lebanon and 3 of them were wounded seriously. It said that 2 of the victims were wounded from anti-tank fire, 3 from a drone attack and another from an operational accident. All right, joining us on this broadcast to discuss the developments regarding the war, Major General Dhruv Katoch, who's a defense expert, and Mr. Manan Dwivedi, who's a foreign affairs expert. I thank you both for taking out your time and for speaking to NewsX. Let me start off this discussion with General Katoch first. General Katoch, obviously Israel is right now fighting a multi-front battle. It's battling Iran in the skies, it's looking at Hezbollah on the ground in Lebanon, it's also looking at maybe Houthis entering the war who have also launched strikes against Israel. So it's a multi-front battle that Israel is now finally looking at, but it seems to be one of the objectives of Israel, sir. They seem to want to change the map, change the boundaries, look at establishing a region that is safer for their country.
Thank you, Shivani. I think there is a difference actually in what is happening there. So far as they are dealing with Iran, it is a war of ballistic missiles. You see, or an aerial war. But when we are looking at southern Lebanon, that is where the ground troops have been employed, and basically they want to push into certain areas which were the strongholds of the Hezbollah. Now, what has happened in Lebanon is the government of Lebanon really does, while they have got their own army, it is the Hezbollah which is still calling the shots, both to the political establishment and to the military. And I think Israel is taking this opportunity now to get rid of the Hezbollah once and for all. The Iranian threat to a very large extent has been subdued, basically because the nuclear facilities will not be available to the Iranians for some time, though they continue to have ballistic missiles. As far as the Houthis are concerned, I don't think they will be a very credible threat to Israel. And in my own view, they're not a very credible threat even to the Mandab Straits on the Red Sea. They've got limited capacity, but they're still dependent on the Iranians. The major threat remains at the Strait of Hormuz, and the battle between Israel and Iran will continue on using ballistic missiles. But here, I think these ground forces are going to continue till they actually eliminate a major portion of the Hezbollah, after which the Lebanon government can take them out and remove this threat permanently. It will take some time, but I think this is going to be the major Israeli challenge on its borders. Shivani.
Absolutely, sir. In fact, like you rightly mentioned, that Israel may want to look at eliminating this threat completely going forward. In fact, we have some more information coming in with regards to the war. Iran has confirmed that senior Revolutionary Guard Corps commander, who was a naval commander as well, Ali Reza Tangsiri, was killed in an Israeli airstrike. The confirmation came on Monday, which is days after Israel announced that it had targeted and eliminated Tangsiri in a precision strike on Bandar Abbas. Now, Tangsiri, who headed the IRGC Navy, was accused by Israel of masterminding attacks on shipping and the attempted blockade of the strategic Strait of Hormuz. Let me rope in Mr. Dwivedi on this. Mr. Dwivedi, finally the admission comes in from the IRGC that yes, Tangsiri was wounded in this airstrike on Bandar Abbas, and he has been killed due to these airstrikes. But what I want to understand is the strategic importance of Strait of Hormuz, because this was the naval commander that Israel said was in fact heading the closure of the strait. He was the one man who was making sure that only friendly ships cross the strait and American and Israeli ships are targeted, and there is this chokehold that Iran maintains on the strait. So I want to understand that right now as well, now that US is planning, they have deployed more troops to the region as well. Do you think they might also have an option of strategically, putting boots on the ground on the Kharg Islands or the islands that are strategically located in the Strait of Hormuz?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for calling me at NewsX. The thought that immediately passes through my mind happens to be that of public international law. Because if we look at international relations, we are talking about only the theoretical aspects and the practical applications in relation to themes such as anarchy, pandemonium, balance of power, balance of terror, and several others. If we go down the litany of international relations theories, including the critical IR part of it. So, but when we are talking about the Strait of Hormuz, what I personally feel is that number one blame, the key blame that has fallen onto the regime in Tehran is the one that so that is something which I have been repeatedly saying and stressing upon, that the failed state paradigm that one associates with countries like Pakistan. The same failed state paradigm cannot be applied to Iran. But still, Iran is one of the biggest sponsors, trainers, and equippers of the non-state actors, that is, the terrorists, insurgents, and the separatists, which are the terms which I am economically using interchangeably. So, this is the first blame that falls onto Iran, that they are supporting global terrorism. Now, as far as President Donald Trump's policy on international security is concerned, and as far as the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's policy is concerned, India is beholden both orally and in written form that there would be zero tolerance to terrorism. And that way, Iran has been going on to support the non-state actors like Houthis, Hezbollah, other Shia militias in Syria, Iraq, and other places, and the Hamas in Gaza. Secondly, immediately jumping on to the first blame falls on Iran, that they are turning gradually into a rogue nation state actor. This was the term for the first time, which was initialized by President George Bush and Bill Clinton, wherein for the first time the USS Cole had been sunk by the Iranian boats only. So coming back to the larger theme, which you initialized the point with, that is the one of Hormuz trade. There in the international law, which I was also referring to earlier on, there is a dictum of common heritage of mankind, and people talk about a collectivity, that is collective security and things like that, wherein the IR, the international relations idiom of liberalism and idealism comes to the fore. So nobody gives no conditionality of war or no iota of hostility, either from America or Israel, gives no right to Iran to block the Strait of Hormuz. If we look at the UNCLOS, the United Nations Convention of Law of Seas, Part 3, it clearly mentions that if there happens to be some sort of a hit out or destruction or decimation or a military maneuver or a naval warship maneuver against the shipping, against the ship of a hostile state or even a non-hostile state, then because of the dictum of peaceful passage or innocent passage, Iran or the other country, despite claiming military advantage at the blockade of the Hormuz Strait or any other strait or water body, it cannot actually impede the international traffic. That is, we all know about it, that 1/5 of the global oil trade, that is 20% of the global oil trade passes through Hormuz. So the Khomeini regimes have been talking about and shouting themselves hoarse, along with the other axis of resistance members like Turkey, Russia, China, and maybe now North Korea, because it is also getting anxious to fire only a couple of missiles onto American interests or to South Korean and Japanese interests. So coming back to Hormuz, I would say that international law, like it prohibits America from preemptive war. If we go into the UN Charter, then in the similar manner, the right to blockade our trade, the right to block the international shipping does not at all lies with Iran.
Right.
And Iran can be called as a recalcitrant nation state, and that would be one part of my offering to you, ma'am. That's all.
All right, Mr. Dwivedi, please do stay on with us. We have some latest visuals coming our way, and you can see heavy